Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Streaming Media Connect 2024. I am your host and media cartographer, Evan Shapiro. We've had a really great day of programming, and it's just about to come to a close with one of the more important panels that anyone's going to have, which is the role of AI's role in streaming, which I think is going to be pretty important and actually vital to fixing a lot of what's wrong from the user experience and the ad buyer experience as well. So I'm fascinated to hear what this panel has to say, especially because there's some big players in AI on the panel itself. But before we get to that panel, just a couple of pieces of paperwork that we need to get to, or virtual paperwork, depending on you look at it. Actually, first, I want to thank our panel sponsor, G-Core, who brings you this panel, AI's role in streaming. Thank you very much. Also, if you were the first to name the band and the song that was just playing, or the music that was just playing, and you are here at the end of the panel, you will win a $50 gift card from Amazon, courtesy of Steve Nathans Kelly. But you have to both have the information right and be here at the end. So stay tuned in, and it's going to be a fascinating conversation, so you won't be tempted to leave. Also, if you come to 2 or more sessions this week, and you only have 1 more day left tomorrow, 2 or more sessions in Streaming Media Connect 2024, you are automatically entered to win an Osbot Tail Air 4K PTZ streaming camera, which is a cool piece of tech. I don't know how you're automatically entered to win, but if you win, you'll be notified by email after the event. A little bit of busy work here. Put your questions in the Q&A. That's what the Q stands for. Put links or comments in chat. Also, look at the chat for cool information, including tomorrow's entire agenda for Streaming Media Connect. Also, look for the agenda and a link to how to register for our big conference here in New York City, Streaming Media NYC, May 20th through the 22nd. 3 great, fun-packed, really, I think, coolly programmed, because guess what? I helped program it. I'm curating with Steve the entire agenda. I'm hosting it and chairing that conference. It's full of a lot of fun, different formats, including some cool fireside chats that I'm modeling after the show Iconoclasts, some debates using high school debate club rules. So it's really fun stuff. Register now. There's a discount code that Steve will put in the chat for passes, but also look at the agenda. If you want to be on any of these panels, we are still filling some of those seats right now. So reach out. Let Steve or I know. I think that's everything. Oh, one last thing. All the sessions from yesterday, today, and tomorrow will all be up on Streaming Media's YouTube channel sometime next week. There'll be a link in the chat to look for that as well. Once again, thank you, G-Core, for sponsoring this panel. And now, to moderate this panel expertly, somebody who knows the space well and is a real big brain in the space, Steve Vonderhaar from Intellivid Research. Come on to the stage.
Hello, Evan. How are you doing? Thanks so
I'm
much for
doing
having
well.
me. Now, I got a bone to pick with you, sir.
Me, what?
Yeah, you only gave me 1 hour to talk about AI and streaming. We could do a whole freaking 2 days on AI and streaming. So I
Well,
hope
we've
we
got
just
more
keep
time
the.
at Streaming Media NYC for AI, so we will pick it up there.
All right. Well,
But I'm
we
not going
got
to take any more time. Get to it.
yeah, we got a lot to get to because there are so many impacts that are coming as a result of AI's integration to streaming. It really is thinking about software development in a whole new way. And we have a great panel that I'm going to bring in one by one here to begin biting away at the elephant here because it's such a big topic. We just got to chip away bit by bit to really begin to develop an understanding of how AI is impacting the streaming marketplace moving forward. Particularly towards the end, we're going to be looking in our crystal ball what's going to be happening in 3 to 5 years, and there's some really, really interesting twists and turns coming down the pike. But let me bring in our first panelist, though, Georgina Trefu from G-Core. Georgina, if you're there, come on in, come on into the stage, and it's great to see you. Thanks so much for taking the visit to taking the time to visit with us during the show today. As we begin to talk about AI, I'd like to put everything in context. So tell us about your role at G-Core. Tell us about G-Core, and then if you could tell us how you're putting AI to work to expand the scope of features that you're offering via your solution.
Hello, Steve. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. It's a great opportunity, and I'm really Looking forward to listen to the opinions of all the panelists that we have today. So GCOR is an international leader in public cloud and edge computing. It offers solutions in AI, content delivery, hosting, and security solutions. The headquarters are in Luxembourg, but we're operating from many different countries in the world. And it offers solutions to leaders in numerous industries, particularly the cloud-based video streaming platform ensures that we deliver videos in a seamless way. Live and real-time video content is delivered with latency lower than 4 seconds. And we don't compromise on quality. As you said, we also put AI to work with our video streaming platform. We have solutions that touch different points of delivering the content. We have AI subtitles and automatic translation of the subtitles. And content moderation is a really interesting topic that we put a lot of effort towards. That's a very short introduction to GCOR and what we're offering.
Well, Georgina, it's great to have you here today, and we really want to dive into exactly what you're seeing in terms of particularly how AI is infusing more transcription capabilities into your average stream. But before we get to that discussion, I want to bring in Andy Beach, CTO of the Media Solutions Group over at Microsoft. Welcome, Andy. How are you?
Hey, good to see you, Steve. Doing great, thanks.
So now, in your role, tell us. I think I botched your title there, but give us, tell me your title, what your role is, and tell us about looking at long-term strategies for Microsoft as you look to embrace media and entertainment customers' needs. What are your responsibilities there, and how do you see AI playing a role across the media ecosystem?
Sure. So I'm the CTO for media and entertainment industry here at Microsoft.
I didn't botch that too bad.
You did great.
Okay.
I look after our technical strategy as it relates to both the technical partners, the use cases, any new technologies that are coming into play. As you can imagine, a lot of the last year has been AI related, and it's really about identifying the right use cases and the right ways to implement it, whether it's production, distribution, monetization, the varied and many ways that you can apply it, and then helping people really understand, like, how is Microsoft doing it? How are we approaching responsible AI? How are we keeping data secure and private as part of it? So it's a lot of conversations with customers. It's a lot of conversations with the partners that are building pieces in the ecosystem that go together, and trying to figure out, like, what are the places that we should tackle next with AI.
And I can follow up. I have 17 follow-up questions that popped in my head just as you were doing that introduction, but we want to get everybody on the stage first before we dive into that discussion. Rob Collins from Stars, pop on up here on stage. And now you're executive director of software development over at Stars, and you're responsible for managing the introduction of several new innovative features for the Stars service. Tell us, I think we all know what Stars is, but tell us about your role at Stars and how AI is impacting the pace of change on your platform.
Sure. And I appreciate you teeing me up like that. One thing I do want to introduce, though, is that definitely my teams work on some of the innovative solutions, some of the new things we're looking at. But a lot of it also is just keeping the machine running. Stars is a subscription video on demand service. It's what you may not know about it is we've been around for we're celebrating 30 years this year. Started as a cable channel, and depending on how you want to define streaming, almost 20 years there too. I mean, that kind of depends on how you feel about, like, real networks and so forth. But
we're streaming before streaming was cool.
Yes, indeed. So what that means is, the visibility on AI has just exploded. We're still kind of in that frenzy, and that's why I appreciate this topic, is because I think we're starting to enter that part of saying, okay, you've got these, you go to cocktail parties and people want to talk to you about large language models and so forth. Taking those and saying, how does that fit into what we're doing, you know, what our business is and how we're streaming and so forth. Some very good use cases that I'm sure will come up. But in a case like stars, you know, I mean, we've got, we're now looking at it as, does this innovative feature, does it integrate with the solved problems that we have? Is it such an innovation that it can replace the processes we built up over all these years? Or is it brand new that we can introduce and so forth? So I'm, you know, of two minds. In one, very bullish, very enthusiastic about what we're seeing and coming down the pike, but at the same time, it doesn't, I mean, it can accelerate, but not necessarily really change that proposition of saying, how does this feature fit in with us, and what can it do for our business?
Yeah, it's the classic sober-minded approach to AI, and it's really looking at AI as a tool that advances your business as opposed to being the latest novelty to throw on there. You're not into novelties, are you?
Well, you know, I mean, it depends. It's like I say, if you can look at it, say this is something we haven't seen before, and here's how it's going to help us, then absolutely love it. I mean, just, you know, anybody who's in technology loves novelty to some extent, but
yeah, that totally understand. Well, it'll be great to have your input throughout this discussion, but first we got to bring in the anchor member of our panelist team, Darcy Lorenz. Click on that video button, come on over here and get on stage. You're the CEO of Motor Worlds, and that's kind of you've been working on it for quite a while, 5 years plus. We're talking about streaming before streaming was cool. You were virtual venues before virtual venues were cool with Moto Worlds. But tell us a little bit about what you do at Moto Worlds and how we see maybe a virtual venue type of environment play in the AI environment, particularly as we talked about before in terms of creating chatbots that can participate and make that online experience more engaging for visitors to your sites.
Well, that's a mouthful. So obviously this emergence of generative AI has helped us dramatically as we've been developing this vast world called Moto Worlds. Used to have quite a few developers for scenes and backgrounds and other things, and now today that's all generated. And actually, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen generative AI and video go from seconds to minutes, which is even going to be better for us. Of course, it all needs work. It's not magic and doesn't come out perfect the first time. But taking half or 3/4 of the labor and the time off the table has been a dramatic change for the business. And really, that's why I retired from my other job recently and came back to this full time, because the timing's right. And maybe I haven't hit the timing all my life. You know me for 30 some years, really early in streaming. Those early days weren't so, you know, glamorous as they were when everybody jumped in and everybody's streaming. But I think that's the same thing. I feel like we're in 1999 for this AI-driven experience as we were in streaming in the late 90s. I think these worlds are converging. These things I'm wearing, I've got a set that I can do augmented things with now, and it's untethered to my phone and other objects, my other screens and other devices. So I think we're going to see over this next 5 to 10 years that it's just going to be natural. A lot of it's more immersive. I mean, our world is you're in it. You can be in VR. You can see it on the screen. We call it the spatial web now. I quit calling it the metaverse. So, catching the wave of what spatial is. But ultimately, it's an immersive, interactive experience. And how I explain it to most people that don't understand metaverse, it's a 3D web. You're walking into websites. You're interacting with things. Things for us are automotive. We're very automotive focused, everything from driving a car to racing a car to building, collecting, all the things you do in the normal lifestyle you can do in this world. And we're focused right now on the business to business and supply chain within the automotive metaverse, but there's all kinds of other experiences. We gave up on games. I was in that game business for quite a while. We connect to all the games. So I made a conscious decision that the racing games did an awesome job at what they did, including, Andy's got Forza over there at Microsoft. And there's several others. So we got out of the sim racing kind of focus, what we were doing earlier, and put our emphasis now on helping businesses take this journey from 2D experiences to 3D experiences. And it just got easier for them too, because they can generate all kinds of things from scripts to backgrounds to objects, and it's not the same lift it was even a year or two ago.
Yeah, so I think both you and Rob kind of invoked the notion of talking about this technology at parties, and I can tell you that back in the late '90s, I became kind of the king of the cocktail party circuit. Whenever anybody would want to talk about technology or talk about anything, I mentioned I was involved in internet related ventures. Everybody wanted to talk to me. I haven't been quite so popular in the past 2 decades, but I've noticed that in just the past 6 months, everybody wants to talk about video. Everybody wants to talk about AI as it is integrated with video. And there's lots of dreams of innovation out there, Rob Collins, but you have to balance those dreams versus the need for reliability. How do you walk that line between those two areas of dreaming the big dreams and making sure that you're delivering a reliable service?
That's one of the hardest questions that we face. I mean, and it's what you see is it's easier to imagine something. I mean, especially now where the ChatGPT has made everybody say, I can create magic now. But taking something like just an example of something like auto transcription, which I know brought up as a topic. Speech to text is a part of AI that's been worked on as long as I can remember, and it's gotten increasingly better and so forth. But what we find is of saying, hey, wouldn't that be great if we use that for all of our closed captioning? That becomes a little different because of the unique business of stars. And we've got for captions in particular, we've got some shows with people who have accents. We have different dialects and that kind of thing that are very hard to do automatically. And even there's legal kind of constraints and so forth. So it's not, and to even make it more complex, we have partners that deliver a lot of material, and they will give us their own captions. So there's not you can look at it and say, yeah, let's have auto transcription, but it gets it's once you put that against the business processes and everything, it gets a little more hard to imagine. But at the same time, I mean, there's still usage for that kind of thing. Like, for instance, in our ingest team, we'll use that almost as a kind of a metadata ingest. We'll get dialogue from that and start searching and so forth. But there are other, I will bring up very quickly and then cede the floor, but there are what are finding some pretty clean use cases of saying something like chatbots of like support. It's not necessarily strictly for streaming, but from a star's perspective, there's not that many things that people are going to come to our customer service for. There's, they probably something with their subscription and so forth. So there's, having a more friendly chatbot of saying, that can answer those questions and that people can self-serve versus getting to a person, that's a clean win for me.
Now, Georgina, we've had a question come in over the transom that I think would be good for you to answer if you can help us out here with this fresh topic. We have one of our viewers saying that AI feels like it's a changing of hats as opposed to a shift in technology overall. What is different? So as you're developing solutions at G-Core and you're looking at AI, is what we're looking at a sea change, or how would you describe what is happening with the infusion of AI capabilities into your feature sets?
I think that what's happening, what we see right now, is the result of many decades. As Rob just mentioned, people have been working on these areas for years. It's not something new. And there are many, many people who have been doing speech recognition since the 80s, since I remember my college professor, he always used to describe to me these such situations when he was trying to do speech recognition with the big cards that he had to put holes in so that he is able to take it to the reader and create and run the algorithm. So what we see now is the outcome of all these years of all these people working hard for these solutions. It is something that the theory was there. We knew that we can do these things, but we didn't have enough power, enough storage to do all these amazing things that we do today. And yeah, I think that we are at the point where we can really take advantage from all these technologies and integrate them into products. And to address also this point that was mentioned before, it's true that AI still has issues, still is not perfect, still we cannot replace human transcribers, for example, who are creating closed captions, but we can definitely help them and make their job easier.
Yeah,
So I really think that there are many things that we can do to help products move forward.
Andy Beach, for media companies, is this a revolution or an evolution?
It probably feels like a revolution just because of how much we've talked about it, but it is true evolution in the way that it's approached. It's the years of work that both Georgina and Rob were talking about that went into AI and ML. That addition of the generative AI and the ability for it to create some content on its own, even when it's wrong, it feels more cohesive, and it does land. And Georgina was 100% right in the we're not replacing even transcriptionists, but we're augmenting them with the capabilities to do more faster. Or to sort of orchestrate work rather than trying to quickly type it out. By the way, I can recall, as someone who's dealt with like SRT files from transcriptions over the year. Transcription from humans can also be bad, but when they are wrong from machines, they're invariably, particularly in the U.S., there are federal implications. And that is it has often driven a lot of the needs and the use cases, but it's definitely in an evolutionary state. It's definitely a place where it is becoming more assistive across the board, and we're only on the sort of the tip of that right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions to be answered as we evolve. And guess what? 20 minutes into the session, and we just received our first question related to intellectual property. So often it happens when we're talking AI, IP concerns come up very early. So I appreciate the audience's restraint for waiting 20 whole minutes before bringing up IP. But Darcy Lorenz over from Moto Worlds, let me have you talk a little bit about integrating IP content into AI systems, and maybe if we can go and talk a little bit about the value of creating smaller language models as opposed to maybe some of the large language models that we're seeing from an Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, and the like. Is there a role for when we talked earlier, we didn't really pre-brief on the IP, so I don't know if you have any thoughts on intellectual property per se, but I thought IP would be a good way to segue into kind of the smaller language models. So what are your thoughts as you're developing your spatial computing offering about the role of IP in making a more engaging experience?
Yeah, I'll start from the other end. So creating, we'll call them small language models. There's lots of terms and different technology, but ultimately it's training the machine to know about you or your company or your industry, and not about everything else going on in the world. Everything else going on in the world is how these large models started. And of course, there's all kinds of chatter about, what they trained on and who gets what. But, if you start with, I got a business need, I've got a bunch of data in my company, whether it's video, audio, images, and I need to make that available a wider use than I have today, which is probably no use or very slim in terms of FAQs or downloadable files or whatever you might have. these AI agents kind of tie in. So ultimately, these are your spokespeople that know everything about you, and they look like you and me. They can talk in pretty real time. In fact, it's just getting better almost weekly, where you can train these agents. They can look like you, talk like you. There's some behavior. If you're looking at them all the time, you know they're a bot. Although I've been fooled a few times recently. So
Yeah.
the,
Am I a bot? Am I a bot, Darcy? We don't know.
we don't know, and maybe next time, next session, I will not be a human. But ultimately, I would challenge 80% of the people to know they don't know in voice. I guarantee that 70% of customer service is already on bots, and you don't know it. You're talking to them and you're texting with them, and you think it's a human contact, but 70% of the time it's not. And I know that because I used to be Accenture, and they got rid of 70% of their offshore telephone call center people because of AI. So that go back to AI bots. They can represent me in any language, me as my personally or in my business or in industry. They can talk very intelligently about me. They can look and feel like an influencer in that market, which we have a lot of them. So we have about 280 automotive influencers that are now digital twins in Motor Worlds, and they talk about people's products and about their own opinions of how to build a car. And they're either an agent, which I call like a talking head like this, or a full-on avatar within Motor Worlds. But either way, they can represent everything about you because they learned from your language model or from the information you provided.
Yeah, so you're working off a much more narrow data set. So your IP concerns of taking information from the New York Times or taking it from the Washington Post or some other media organization, that's not even a factor because you're really building your models over the IP that you have control of.
Every company that's in Motor Worlds opts in and provides their information for the automotive industry data, and then every company bifurcates that and adds to their own amount of information. And they can give as little or as much as they want, but if they give little, they're going to get little back in terms of the experience. So, and again, until recently, in last couple of years, there wasn't an output anyway, so they didn't get it. But as soon as they see that this bot can talk, it's not a subtitle. I can talk like I'm talking right now in any language. It sounds like me, and my lips are moving in the other language. There's no more of this. I'm reading that subtitle. Sorry for the broadcasters and linear folks, but in streaming, it's all hands on deck to use that to get your product information out. Somebody comes in from Brazil or comes in from Asia or another continent or another country and into your 3D world. They're talking in their own language with their own gestures and their own cultural kind of nuances. And they're talking to the product or the influencer in that particular category. And those conversations are pretty cool to watch. Again, they actually create a lot of content that they can use in their FAQs. So they're constantly feeding back into the model as they're engaging with these companies or supply chain or customers that are in these engagements. So it just feeds itself from that point on.
Yeah. So Andy Beach, what are Microsoft's customers in the media industry telling you about IP and concerns over IP or best practices for dealing with intellectual property issues?
Sure. I mean, as you can imagine, particularly working with studios, broadcasters, sports leagues, all of them are worried about their intellectual property and how that gets used with these. So even well before we had generative AI or concerns around this, we had a responsible AI practice here at Microsoft. And there's a lot of transparency that's built into those principles and how we can use customer data and how customer data gets handled. And a big part of that is that none of the customer information goes into any training of the models that we have. You're perfectly welcome to, within your own subscriptions, create your own models, train your own, but you own that. It's your IP. It continues to be your IP. We, Microsoft, don't have access to it. No one else outside of your company or even just the people you assign to it would have access to it unless you give them access. So it continues to be yours, just like it was part of an on-prem environment that you have. I see a lot of questions that keep coming in around sort of how AI images and voices and other elements get used. I've trained my voice in some of our our capabilities. And now when we put out a video of me talking about things to the internal group, I can publish it to any language effectively, allowing people to feel that localized feel of the content. And it's very odd the first time you hear yourself speak Japanese, knowing you cannot speak it. And I think it will change the way we communicate and the way that we interact, much as the way even just subtitling in things like Teams meetings has changed the way that we do work. What's important, and I think the way we've implemented it though, is the fact that, you know, at any point I can go back in and destroy that, and effectively Microsoft no longer has my voice. So even though they have it and I've done it, I have the ability to still revoke that at any point, based off of those responsible AI practices that we've put in place. And I think it's the governance part of rolling out AI that is super critical, given how fast the sort of the developments are coming in this space.
Yeah, we could talk all day about intellectual property issues, but let's shift gears a little bit to some of the ways that AI can be put to work to really plow through some of the day-to-day tasks that are facing media companies. Georgina, could you tell us a little bit about what you folks are doing in content moderation? How are you leveraging AI systems to keep an eye on things out there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, content moderation is another really interesting area. I think that AI can help video streaming nowadays. So there are many ways to integrate content moderation in the workflow, in the normal workflow that a human moderator will follow anyway right now. We can take input from the audio or the video. For example, we can use the transcribed subtitles that we already mentioned to detect hate speech, to detect anything that we don't like our content to have, and either block it or just remove it and replace it with something else. And then, of course, we can do the same for video. We can identify parts of the video that are not acceptable, that can be malice or harmful for a particular audience. And these are just the simplest use cases, because we can, with AI, the important thing is that we can be consistent, we can be fast, so we can even do it on real time. And human moderators have a trouble there. It's not so easy to quickly follow up a video content that changes fast, that maybe changes languages. So this is another way that AI comes in play with video moderation. It is multilingual. It can change instantly from one language to another. Again, as I said before, we don't want to replace human moderators, but rather make their life easier. And there are many ways to make their life easier. You can flag some content, and instead of having a moderator go through the whole content of your customer, just pick up a few flagged items and to make sure that these are okay before they are allowed to the public. And then, of course, we can do automated filtering. We can analyze the content for trends. So it's not exactly content moderation, but it comes very closely with it. So just monitor all content that your users are generated and try to figure out what are the trends, what is emerging. And this is something that nowadays in this content generation world is really, really interesting to a lot of people.
Yeah,
so
you
yes,
have so much content that's being developed. It's almost like fighting against the avalanche of video that's coming down. So you need AI tools like that to fight the AI video creation.
I think it's interesting to have something monitoring all this content that is being generated, and not only for definitely to moderate, to make sure that there is no harmful material there, but also to better make sense of it. It's so much data that no human being can make sense of, and it's definitely possible to provide very interesting insights with some automation there.
Yeah, and it certainly is dealing with a complex set of data. And Rob Collins, I guess we also deal with complex content data when we're looking at the realm of recommendations. Now we've had machine-driven recommendations for quite a while, but do you see AI impacting the STARS recommendation engine over time?
Yes, I mean that's one that, well, I mean, maybe it was 2009-ish that there was the Netflix prize.
Right.
I mean, that was it's. I think what's different now with this sort of wave we're seeing of like the broader public is getting excited about AI. But if you recall back then, there was people were really getting excited about what can recommender systems do, because that's the problem we need to solve, is what do our customers want to watch and how can we put that in front of them and so forth. So that's something at STARS we've been working on for quite a while. We, during that time when in those early days when we were saying we need to do this, built up some expertise in house, kind of built our homegrown recommender system. We continue to partner with other folks just to kind of see, because they're back then the kind of recommender systems that you could just purchase weren't that sophisticated. There's more players now. There's more vendors. I think even this other wave of AI is bringing some of those in. So we continue to work with them because that's a problem that is so core to the business of saying how can we get people rushing. So absolutely, recommender systems is something that we've emphasized and continue to work, and will, as innovations come through, integrate those to help out the business.
Now let's stay with you here now, Rob. So I move to this next topic, talking about leveraging AI, whether it's developed in-house or you're going to be using AI utilities from an outside provider. As you're developing some of your enhanced features, is this something that you're doing in-house? Do you look externally, and how do you go about making that build versus buy decision?
It kind of goes back to the ecosystem we've got, that there's a lot of things that we have that when we got into the particular area, that there just really wasn't a choice. So like, if you want it, you build it. Now that there's sophisticated vendors, we are really, the choice becomes harder. And then and I'll give you an example of what's turning out to be a fairly easy use case, is that we've been SVOD since the inception, since we started streaming. We are looking at some of advertising now, whether being in our service, some different use cases for that, but we don't have anything existing for that. So that's, whereas the stuff we were early on, it was very easy to say, we got to build it. Now because of what's happened advertising recently, there's all kinds of vendors, there's all kinds of partners. Then you say, yeah, we don't want to reinvent this wheel. There's kind of a gradation between those two extremes that could probably have its own presentation, but those, that's really core of build versus buy in my mind.
Yeah. How about you, Darcy? Where are you on the buy versus build AI capabilities debate?
Oh, I'm still a kind of half and half. So all the physics engine and all that core stuff that we used to have in our own platform, abandoned that almost 5 years ago and went to Unity. Unity is there's Unreal and Unity, and they're fighting it out. And of course, NVIDIA's got their own Omniverse, they call it. It's a platform that you start with. You don't have to build a physics engine. You don't have to contemplate, wind and weather and environmental things. It's all built in, and it helps you be portable across other Unity platforms, which most of the automotive industry designs on Unity, because it kind of came out of that more structured industrial world, as in Unreal came out of the gaming world. Two are relatively similar. I'd say Unreal still does a better job at game experiences and really detailed physical objects, where Unity is much more tuned into the physics and the motion and things that are important in an industrial kind of application. Outside of that, of course, the language model, there's lots to choose from. We're not about to go and build that. That's crazy talk. You got to raise a lot more money than all these guys have already done, and it would be senseless to try and compete in that space. So obviously it's good. There's lots of competition there. You can choose the language model that fits the need. The one that we use to slice and dice down to kind of the personal or business level is different than the one we use to generate scripts and backgrounds, and the generative stuff has to learn a lot more than just what's going on in the automotive world. So I'm a big believer in just finding what tool works. The part that we build is all the objects and the experience and how it comes together. It's not much different than the web world. And it is the web world. It's web 3D for me. I'm glad there's standards out there like OBJ and FBX files, things that are file based that I can take an object from Unreal into my world of Unity, and it's pretty transferable now. Textures and lighting and everything's kind of goes across things these days. Portability and transportability of your avatar is going to be real important. You don't want to be a dragon in one world and a human in the other, so you got to really think about what you can do. I even see now Roblox and Minecraft trying to get a little more human instead of Lego looking. So it's going to be an interesting time. And by the way, why can't it translate a real into a dragon if you go to a fantasy world too? That's fine, but it needs to know what to do. And so I think those interoperability things, much like the early days of the browsers and search engines, they're going to come together and they're all going to have similar properties and do their own nuance for an industry. I think the fight between, the object and the rendering platforms is over. And it's very, very well represented. Now it's the ones that build on top of it, industry specific things or, vertically or horizontally oriented parts that build on top of that. I built my own OSI layer for this area we called AI. So I tried to figure out what the layers look like in this world. And when you do that and you're a geek like me, it kind of all comes together. So I'm trying to figure out how they all fit together. And I've abandoned the physical layer and the data layer and those things that aren't important. I wouldn't build a fiber network like I wouldn't build a physics engine. So it takes care of that pretty readily.
Yeah. So Andy Beach, we have large language models really automating the process of creating video content. We saw Sora, the Sora beta coming out of the OpenAI folks a week or so back, giving us text to video prompts. And I think he may have answered this question in the QA already, but I think it raises an interesting issue for us all to discuss as we essentially have AI tools that help us create an avalanche of content. How are we going to navigate through all this stuff?
Yeah, and I did drop an answer in there, but honestly, it is AI that will also be helping navigate this, whether it's finding and detecting things that are trying to pass themselves off as real. More critical thinking needs to be done in the space and more just general evaluation. Frankly, we could all use that one. And then really creating sort of personalized filters and being able to identify and verify the content. I think a lot more work will be done in the coming years around content provenance and the authenticity of the content and understanding how it's been touched in the creation and distribution pipeline to better understand where it originally comes from and what the intent of the material is. That's somewhat separate from the AI processes that go along with it, but it's a pretty critical piece.
Yeah, Georgina, are we going to be trapped under a pile of video that we're never going to be able to get out from under? Or how do we deal with all this stuff? And you may be muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
I was saying that I think that AI will help us get out of this. I mean, and I think this is where we're going to. So right now, we understood the capabilities of AI. We understood what type of models we can build, how easily we can retrain and fine-tune them. But we are now at the beginning of searching all the use cases that we can take AI and apply on. So I think that when we have the next problem, that is we have too much data, we have too many deepfakes, we have things that we don't know how to navigate, we will train a model to do it for us. So it's so easy to do this now. So it is a solution that I think will really help us with this situation that we are getting into.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on open source versus some of the proprietary solutions we see out there?
I am a fan of open source. I mean, I am a machine learning engineer. I love open source software. I don't agree in reinventing the wheel, and it's definitely better to build on top of what the community already built for you. It's also, I mean, there are too many things that you could try when you start looking into a project, or when you decide to find a model for a certain use case. So it's better when everything is open source. There is also much more material to study and understand what better fits your needs than having to do a research without really looking into the results, and then going with a proprietary solution that might not be the best. So yeah, it's open source anyway.
Yeah. Rob, would a service like Stars ever embrace an open source solution as opposed to getting its AI utilities from one of the tech giants out there?
I would say we'd have to see how the market shakes out. As of now, I don't see that in the immediate future, just because, you know, as I'm like you, I'm hesitant to go too far into the IP and legal parts of it, but there's not much chance that Stars is going to pivot to become an AI company and start doing that work. So it's more likely we would say, okay, big partners, you've done this work. Let's see how we can apply it for our own stuff. And again, we've definitely gone down that road when we've needed to, but in this environment, I would say it's more, let's have a corporate partnership versus trying to dig into open source and you know, roll our own there.
Yeah. So we've come to that point. We got just about 10 minutes left here or so. So I'm going to make you guys pull out your crystal balls, look 3 to 5 years down the way, and paint a vision of different feature categories or things that are going to that you're hoping or thinking will happen in the intermediate term of the development of the AI video landscape. We'll start with you, Darcy. We'll put you see how your prognostication capabilities are. What do you see around the corner for us?
Well, again, I'm probably not the person that's going to tell you everybody's job's safe. So I think there's going to be industries that are dramatically disrupted, and this creative process we're seeing now with minute-long videos being generated by machines is going to take it's going to create more productivity, and you better learn it now, because you know it's changing every day. It's hard to learn it in school, so you got to get really engaged and do it in real time, and do it in your spare time, or if you're in the industry, stay on top of it. But there's no doubt on the creative side, you're going to see these massive changes. And it's been about technology up till now. Maybe this first wave of generative has been a glimpse to that creative process. But it's really, you know, again, I'm speaking from experience. I went from 16 to 2 developers of content, and we're doing, you know, 10x the work. So that's all I have to look at. So I see the future really being a lot more generative AI around video, a lot more personalization. Cookies are going away. What's that going to mean? Well, in these worlds, you're going to have a lot more personalization, because you're a representation of yourself. You're a digital twin. And if you engage with a product, it's pretty easy to understand that entity can say, I bought something, or I was there. In this cookie world, it's, you know, who knows if they're even paying attention if they click something. So it's going to change a lot in advertising as well, and sponsorship. And I think
Huge
creative,
changes,
those are the real 3 areas that I see: creative, sponsorship, advertising, disruption at scale in the next 5 years.
I think those are 3 worthy areas to keep an eye on. Georgina, what are your thoughts on what's coming down the pike?
Yeah, I think I would say number 1 would be the personalization aspect that Darcy just mentioned. I mean, I can really see content being generated specifically for each of us. So I can see movies ending in different ways when I watch the movie and when someone else watches the same movie, based on how we are reacting real time on while we're watching this movie.
Yeah.
Or the same with games or any other content. Another area that hasn't been mentioned is how we are going to see AI happening. So I think we will start seeing AI processing moving from centralized processing to the edge, to edge computing, and it will move closer to the user. And we will all be able eventually on our machines really run strong models and have the power in our hands, the way that right now we can do so many other things. We will also be able to do AI for many parts of our everyday content and media consumption.
Yeah. So, Rob, I want interested in your thoughts as well on the crystal ball side, but we do have one question I want to throw at you real quick from the Q&A panel, and it relates to content providers. So if you can comment on that, on this question first before we get to your crystal ball. Do you see AI causing change in terms of what happens in terms of the long tail content market? If we can pull stuff up from the deep archives, is there renewed value to some of that old stars content from decades ago as a result of AI? 30 seconds on that, and then we'll get the crystal ball.
Well, I would my answer was for crystal ball is related to that. So maybe I'll just take it as a piece.
Okay, very good.
I mean, my feeling is that the innovation will follow the business, and and we saw that with recommender systems, and everybody who's streaming is just trying to get people engaged watching their content, whether it's to watch ads, whether to pay for it, whatever it is. You want someone to watch the content. So that kind of thing. I expect some new kinds of interfaces. I mean, I'm maybe speculate a little too much, but where I see
go ahead, speculate away.
Where I see the real kind of battles that are happening right now are on some of those really niche fast channels that they have the same issue everybody else. Let's figure out some way to make people watch our stuff. So I think there's going to be people who are going to be willing to experiment and say, well, let's now try some of the things other panelists have altering the content, whether it's some means of discovery of bringing in the LLMs, and also having that kind of interface of saying, well, as I learn more about you, here's something interesting to try. The proliferation of automated metadata to say, here's connections that we don't see now that can lead to further discovery. So that's predicting the future is hard, but I absolutely think there's going to continue to be innovation on how do you make your content discoverable and something people want to watch.
AI really is a tool for getting the right piece of video of the right person at the right time, isn't it?
Yeah, and to everybody else's point, there's already quite a bit more than you can watch in a lifetime, and it's just getting more and more.
So Andy Beach, you wiping off your crystal ball. What do you think is coming down the line 3 to 5 years? And I know that's a long time frame, particularly from a Microsoft perspective, but paint a picture for me.
Yeah, but before I do, I'll jump in on the long tail content marketing too, and just say I'm in the midst of putting together demos that we'll have at NAB around using generative AI to effectively gamify vintage game shows, using it to put in facts, trivia, and be able to actually compete alongside people in Family Feud from the 1980s or other elements. And I think
you too can match your wits with Richard Dawson on Match
exactly.
Game.
I think that level of interactivity is exactly a direction that we're going. And it's not that the interactivity part wasn't there, it was, but doing it at scale with particularly back catalog content wasn't practical to do it in a meaningful way. And generative AI is going to give us that ability to go ideate and test with it. So ultimately, I think storytellers like those that are doing it today are going to be doing it in a different and unique and differentiated way. But I also think there's just going to be a wealth of other storytellers that are out there, much the way social media increased the number of content creators that are out there. AI is going to do the same and give them the ability to tell a story to an audience, even if that's an audience of one.
So is that your crystal ball that we're going to have this avalanche of content personalized
I
to
think
each
we
and
will,
every
and
person out there?
we will have a lot more content, but we'll also have the ability to go find and discover the content that's more meaningful and relevant to me at the right time and the right moment, whether it's me walking through an airport looking at my phone, or sitting at my laptop, or sitting on my couch with my family. It'll be relevant and contextual to the moment and the place.
Yeah, I think substantial change is coming in the media marketplace, and it's really interesting. Do you think the NAB show is going to show a lot of different things, make us look at the market in a different way?
I don't think anybody should play any drinking games around the word AI at NAB, because that will be danger.
There will be quite a few fun applications to talk about for sure.
Absolutely.
In the weeks and months ahead, and it might all crystallize, come to a head, not only at NAB but also at the Streaming Media Show coming up in New York in May as well. So we're coming up to the top of the hour. My thanks goes out to our panelists for sharing your thoughts. I could go on for like I said at the top, we could probably visit on this for 2 or 3 hours, crack open a few bottles of wine and have a good old time. And we still wouldn't have enough time to address all the issues. So I thank all of our panelists for taking part today, and thanks to our team at Stream Media Connect for giving us this forum to talk about the important issues around AI and the future of streaming. Mr. Evan, take us out.
Yeah, thanks so much. That was a great panel. Steve, great job, Steve. Great collected thoughts here from everybody. And I some areas of around use that I had not imagined before. So thanks for that. It was really wonderful. I want to thank G-Core for sponsoring this. Thank you very much. This was a great panel, and we've got great day of programming all day tomorrow. Steve will put the link to the agenda in the chat. The winner of our walk-up music contest was Garrick Huey. The song was the song is "Time Is Tight" by The Clash. So congratulations to Garrick. And then get ready for tomorrow. We start our panels as early as 10 a.m. With Cloud Control Innovative Workflows and Cloud-Based Streaming, sponsored by ZZ. Thanks, everybody, for a great day of programming. Thank you again, panelists. Thank you, Steve, for a great job moderating. Thank you, Steve, for producing behind the scenes, and we'll see you tomorrow.